This is a Monty moment. I'm Johnny Montalbano. As we get you ready for another exciting weekend of college football action, it's week 6 already coming up this Saturday, and it's amazing to think that. And it's good to be back on here after not really having a voice during week 5, but nevertheless, get you set here for another exciting weekend of college football action. And just to look back at week 5 last week, you had number 1 Georgia at the time rallying to avoid an upset against Missouri. You had number 2 Alabama beating Arkansas. Of course, the big story there, though, was quarterback Bryce Young injuring his shoulder. We don't know yet his status for Saturday, so we'll see if it's him or the freshman quarterback Milroe that gets back under center there against Texas A&M. Also, you had TCU shocking number 18 Oklahoma in a rout. Number 14 Ole Miss edged number 7 Kentucky. Kentucky had him, a couple of mistakes there down the stretch, so Ole Miss wins and they get inside the top 10. Number 9, Oklahoma State held off number 16, Baylor. And like I said, Alabama got past Arkansas, and Mississippi State dominated number 17, Texas A&M. Just some of the crazy moments from week number 5 in college football. And A&M, I'll tell you, talk about a Jekyll and Hyde team. That is a team that, at home they beat up Miami, and then they go on the road and they lose like the way they did there against Mississippi State. But you know what? That's college football. Well, we'll see what we can do here as we get you set for another great weekend of games. And when you look at the games this week, I was almost tempted to pick one of the big teams, like Alabama, who did move up to number 1 in the polls with how Georgia struggled there against Missouri last week. I think when you look at the top teams just for a second here, number 1 Alabama, I think they're going to beat A&M no matter who's under center, if it's Bryce Young or it's Milroe. I don't know if they cover the 24 points, though. I think A&M will make it a little bit closer every game, where they might have a way to backdoor cover in that spot. That's why I don't know if I would touch that. I don't know if number 2 Georgia is going to cover against Auburn. That's an interesting thing to watch. I don't know if Clemson is going to cover this week. You might have some closer games than you would normally expect. But nevertheless here, we're going to try and get back on track on our college football picks because, once again, last week, if you follow our main account, Game On ETB, on Twitter and Facebook at facebook.com/GameOnETB, I had to do my picks via a thread on Twitter and on a post on Facebook, since yours truly could not really talk last week. But last week, another 1-2 week. This is about 3 straight weeks now going 1-2, and my one winner really was Kentucky, who did cover against Ole Miss, but should have won that game in total. But I also did pick Baylor to beat Oklahoma State. That did not work out. And I did have NC State covering against Clemson. That did not work out. So 1-2 again last week. We are unfortunately off to a rough start. We are 6-9 through the first 5 weeks of college football. We're going to try and give you 3 winners this week, and I'm going to give you 2 games with ranked opponents this week, and I'm also going to give you a game that a couple of weeks ago looked like it was going to be very, very intriguing, and now it's involving a team that pretty much is on life support in terms of college football. But we're going to see what we can do here. I'm also going to give you 2 upsets of these 3 games this week. So let's start with a massive SEC contest right at 12 noon Eastern on Saturday. It's number 8 Tennessee traveling to LSU to take on the Tigers, the 25th ranked LSU Tigers. And Tennessee, coming off a week off, they are 3-point favorites in this one. The Volunteers, they started off 4-0, big win against Florida early on in the season. Then they got a week off last week, so they are rested. They do have time to prepare for this one, and they go against an LSU team that's been on a bit of a rough run here as of late. But when you look at the LSU side of things, they actually are playing well. The Auburn game was tough. The Mississippi State game was tough. Now they got to get ready for a passing game that's as efficient as any in college football with Volunteers quarterback Hendon Hooker, who has not thrown a pick in the early going. He does not, and I don't think he has to force much here thanks to a great ground game. But in this one, the LSU defense is going to be the best one that Tennessee's had to face so far. And you look at these 2 teams, not to take anything away, but we know Tennessee did face Florida early on, but their schedule, they haven't really faced anybody like an LSU. And LSU's had some challenging opponents in the early going under first-year head coach Brian Kelly. And I think Kelly's going to find a way to get this one done. I look for this game to be back and forth, close, coming down late in this one. But I think when you look at it, Daniels has not – their quarterback for LSU, I think he's going to be able to keep up with Hendon Hooker Daniels there. He hasn't had to make any deep shots. I think that's about to change. I think the Tiger offense is going to run well enough to take some of the pressure off, and this would come down to me. This game's going to come down to one stop, and if I need a team to make one stop, I'm trusting LSU to do that. So I think they make the stop that needs to be made. I don't know the Volunteers can do that. So upset special in game number 1, it's LSU plus the 3 against Tennessee to give them their first loss of the year. Game number 2 is a Pac-12 special at 3:30 p.m. Eastern out west. It's the number 11 Utah Utes facing the number 18 ranked UCLA Bruins. The Utes 3.5-point favorites. Two offenses that are averaging over 40 points a game. They have a mix of downfield flash and power at the lines to go score for score all day. But I like the Utes in this game because of a heavy defensive advantage that they show. Yeah, you know what? That average that they give up, they're averaging 14.4 points a game. That number will go up a little bit after this one, but I believe that the defending conference champs here have the horses to make the stops that Washington was not able to make last week against UCLA. I think the Utes got it done. Give me Utah laying 3.5 to win and cover in game number 2. Game number 3, a game that a couple of weeks ago we would have circled as a very intriguing matchup. Now it's one that involves really a team that's the honeymoon may be over. It's North Carolina, the Tar Heels, traveling down to Miami to take on the Miami Hurricanes. The Hurricanes at 4 p.m. This game at 4 p.m. Eastern. The Hurricanes are 3.5-point favorites, but to me, when you look at this matchup, North Carolina is firing on all cylinders. Yes, Notre Dame gave them a reality check a couple of weeks ago, but they returned to offensive form in a 41-10 win over Virginia Tech last Saturday to open ACC play. And the last time that we saw Miami, it was another rough outing, this time against Middle Tennessee. Hurricanes were down 17-3 after the first quarter. They couldn't catch up. They lost 45-31. Tyler Van Dyke, their quarterback, who had been playing well in the early going, struggled against the Texas A&M, struggled again here. He's gone through, and all of a sudden that Mario Cristobal honeymoon down there in Miami may be all of a sudden going very, very quick. And the Hurricanes, they've struggled against A&M. I mean, they only gave up 17 points, but A&M beat them, and then they struggled against Middle Tennessee State. And let's be honest, North Carolina is a more talented team than Middle Tennessee State. When you watch North Carolina in their last game against Virginia Tech, one thing they were able to do was limit the big plays, and it remains to be seen if the Hurricanes defense can do that. So I'm rolling with the Tar Heels, getting 3.5 to win outright against Miami. So again, 3 picks here for week number 6. Give me the Tigers getting 3 against the Volunteers to start Saturday in an ACC matchup. In a Pac-12 battle, I love the Utes laying 3.5 against the Bruins, and I like North Carolina, the Tar Heels, getting 3.5. I think they win that game upset as well against the Miami Hurricanes. So those are the 3 picks for week number 6 in college football. For more, like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameOnETV, and you can follow me on Twitter at Montalbano NY. And this has been a Monty Moment. I'm Johnny Montalbano.